Okay. You know what? Let me do it. Let me do it. We're going to talk about a Mishnah for Kavod that's very beautiful. That we're going to tackle, God willing, on a really nice level, and it speaks to that refinement of character, that elevated, fine person that we've been talking about in you're right here. We've been talking about in the Silat Yesharim, in the main book, and that we'd all like very much to aspire to continue to live our lives that way, and of course guide our children accordingly. So we are going to expand our reach a little bit and take a look at this Mishnah. I'm going to read it piece by piece in Hebrew and go through it, because there's some fabulous terms that we want to own. So firstly, the author of the Mishnah is someone we refer to as Rabbi, our rabbi, or the rabbi. He's Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi. His name was Judah Yehuda. He was the head of the Sanhedrin, of the great court, the great rabbinic court. He's from the lineage of King David, and he's from the family of Hillel. No, it doesn't get much better than that. And he was a Tomei Hador. He was the wealthiest person of the generation.
And they call him Rabbi?
Rabbi, yeah, Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi, or Rabbi, or Rabbeinu HaKadosh. That's how they refer to him. So he's a monumental, a giant figure. They say that his table, like the table of the non-Jewish kings in that era, was filled with the finest fruits and vegetables all year round, regardless of the season. So there was no refrigeration. There was no way to preserve anything a few thousand years ago, but his table was always filled, regardless of the time of the year, regardless of the season, with the finest of the fine. He is also noted as having said that I had everything, which he did in every sense, really, in intellectual as well as spiritual, as physical wealth and so on. He says, I never enjoyed anything from this world beyond what I absolutely needed to enjoy. That's his that's his claim.
Someone's going downstairs. I don't know if they saw us. Should I go get them?
If you don't mind. Sorry, somebody down. So that's how we know him. We know him as someone who is comes from the greatest lineage, had immense Torah knowledge, had immense wealth. They said that he would pay for young, poor scholars to come and study and so on. So he's the one who organized the core works of the oral law. He organized them and had them written down, and he does some of his own. So we're going to learn this one. He says as follows: Ezo. Getting some background noise. If you could just mute. Okay. Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, it says Ezo he derech yeshara.
Okay.
What is straight path? Straight path. Now we know we learned.
Did you get changed this morning?
What?
Did you get changed this morning?
Oh, here comes.
Change my shirt to my sweater, short of to
You
cover.
could please, Myrna, if you could.
Stop.
What?
Myrna, if you could please mute. It's we're getting some noise from your end. Thank you. Hi, honey. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. So Ezihi derech yeshara. What is the straight path a person should take? We know that there's no such thing as an absolute straight path. We know that the person who attempts to build his life or her life in a straight way, right, is invariably pulled off and clambers back, and pulled off and clambers back. So when we talk about a straight path, we're talking about a path that's ambitious, that's seeking, that's attempting, that's moving into new areas of life where there's bound to be mistakes made, right? But constantly goes back. That's the straight path from a Torah perspective. So we're moving this way, and we try to always be moving up. Invariably, as we're moving up, we're going to get pulled a little this way and pulled a little that way. And who is the person who's called straight? The person who is invariably pulled one way or the other and finds his way back, and gets pulled this way and finds her way back. That's the yashad. And that's a huge Torah paradigm, that a person who's yashad, a person who's straight, is not someone who's always perfect, who's always on the narrow, doing exactly what is expected. It's a person who is venturing into new things, who is attempting to build new things, who does want growth and advancement in life, and therefore will unquestionably be pulled off track and will work his way back. Good. He says, so who is that person? He brings, the B brings a beautiful idea here. He says, who is the person who's considered that righteous, that straight person? He's the person or she that their persona, their actions are looked upon with the term of tiferet, meaning beautiful. In other words, people look at this person not as someone who's perfect, there's no such thing, right? Obviously, but a person whose actions are sincere and fine, and literally the term tiferet means glowing and shining and pretty.
So does it mean spectacular?
Huh?
Does it mean spectacular?
It means more warm and glowing and beautiful. It doesn't mean wow.
Oh, that's what I meant.
It doesn't mean wow. No, great. It doesn't mean wow. It means just that positive aura that makes a person smile when you think about the person. So, and the words that some of our rabbis use are in harmony, right? Where the person's life, again, is definitely not perfect, definitely get pulls to this direction or that, but the person's core values don't change. The person's quality, how the person carries himself, the quality of character, the quality of that doesn't change. That's considered harmonious. Good. So, yeah, are you guys with me? Zoom folks with me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the term tiferet, how are you? Okay. Yes, so you can share the book. The term tiferet is also used in the context of Yaakov Avinu, of Jacob, rather than Yitzchak or Abraham, because Abraham and Yitzchak didn't have absolute harmony as represented by their children. Abraham had two extremely different children, right? Yitzchak and Ishmael. Yitzchak had Yaakov and Esav. So there was a great amount of disharmony in their profile. But Yaakov, even though his children were different, and even though his life in certain respects was more difficult, is considered harmonious in that respect and is considered a paradigm of harmony. Now, that's pretty fascinating, right? Right? Because Yaakov Avinu was the one who went through all the tough stuff, right? He went through the situation with Esav. He went through the situation with Lavan. He played the rule by their game, and he beat them at their game, and it wasn't pretty, right? He took the berachot. He beat Esav out on the Bechorah. He beat Lavan in his own tricks to defraud him of his wealth, right?
And his wife. Wasn't that Yaakov, Rachel, and
Yeah. Good. So he played their game, if not on their level, close to their level, and he either beat them or he fought them to a draw, right? At least, right? So how is it that Yaakov is the paradigm of harmony? because he greeted the world on its terms, but who he was fundamentally never changed. Who the person is never changed. He was in harmony with his core values. Those were never compromised. And that's a huge thing, because when you get dragged along, when you face a difficulty, when you face a failure, when you face a stressful thing, sometimes people can't hold to their true selves because life can be very hard sometimes, right? And we're pulled away from our core values. And everybody gets pulled away, right? Yashar means I'm coming back, right? Ezehu Yashar, so that's how the Mishnah starts. Who is that Yashar? As we learned, Yashar is coming back. A person who is tiferet, is tiferet to other people and to God. And how does that happen? It happens where the person has core values, things that he or she believes in with all their heart, and it lives true to most of the time. But when you shake somebody else in the middle of the night and you say, tell me about Jack, tell me about Susan, tell me about Bob, whoever it might be, they will be able to describe the harmony, the integrity, the nice little beautiful bubble that this person creates around himself or herself. That's what the B is talking about here, right? We can picture this, right? Right? Okay. And so it doesn't mean perfect. It means overwhelmingly in sync with a beautiful beautiful aspirations and beautiful life practices. Okay? So that's part A. We okay with that so far? Yeah, you guys? Okay.
Yes.
And then he continues and he says, but you know what? Before it continues, let's go back to the Mesilat Yesharim a minute. Mesilat Yesharim in this section is talking about nikiyut, right? He's talking about this cleanliness that a person has, which means that the person has moved beyond actions that are good or otherwise, and he's refining himself in terms of, or herself, in terms of what he thinks and what he and the smallest of nuances in speech and tone. That's nikiyut. Nikiyut or cleanliness it lines up beautifully with this, because the person who's on this track where he's constantly working at refining his heart, where he's constantly working at refining his thoughts, where he's constantly putting himself in a beautiful surrounding or environment, that person is going to have this little glow, this little harmonious sense about him, because he's not conflicted inside. Yeah, what's me? He's not conflicted inside. It's a very hard thing. It means finding your true north, and you have to get there. This is my true north. This is who I am. This is what makes me happy. Well, what do you mean? Wasn't I here? Wasn't I there? Wasn't I there? Wasn't I there? Yes, good. Didn't I do a pretty good job in these areas? Sure. But those weren't your true north. Those weren't your true self. What are you talking about? No, they weren't. So a person keeps striving throughout life to move through them. And if the person is clear-minded and demanding of himself enough to look at his heart and look at his thoughts and say, I want more, and keep pushing for more. And by pushing for more, you just keep moving closer to yourself. And that purity, that sense of personal cleanliness, which means I'm at peace. I know who I am. I know what makes me happy. It enables the person to smile more and for longer, and to be more jovial, and to be more loving, and to be more accepting, and to be less concerned with everything, because the person is where he wants to be. And that puts out that beautiful glow of tiferet. That's what we're talking about. Okay, and that goes right back to the concept of nikiyut, of cleanliness, because I've scrubbed my thoughts and I continue to do so. I'm scrubbing what goes on in my heart, my feelings. But you know what makes the scrubbing easier? I'm in my zone. I'm not being challenged and compromised and conflicted. I'm where I want to be. So the challenges that I get are infinitely less, because I'm not being pulled away from myself.
Challenge is good.
Yeah, they're definitely good. Beautiful, sir. They're definitely good as long as I'm building the challenges that will take me to the
Somewhere.
ultimate me.
Right.
Right. If I'm dealing with the challenges that took me away from me, they're a great, loss of energy and time and so on. Right? Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Then he continues and says, "V'haveh zahir b'mitzvah kala k'behamura." He says that any mitzvah that a person has the opportunity to do, and again, you could copy paste and say that the Ramchal is talking now from the Mesilat Yesharim, right? The main book that we're focused to. He says that you have to be aware and alert for a mitzvah, regardless of how you perceive it. In other words, let's say we perceive that Shabbat is the most strict and the most demanding, right? What the rabbi is saying is there's no less and more. There's no less and more. Oh, Yom Kippur, that's the holiest day of the year. No, it isn't. It isn't. Because everything that we do is on an absolutely flat basis. We collapse the pyramid. There is no hierarchy of importance of mitzvot in our minds. And we look at the mitzvah kala kibehamura. We look at the mitzvah that looks like it's simple and relatively thoughtless and easy, and therefore the reward has to be in line with the action. We look at that and we say no such thing. There is no such thing as a lesser mitzvah or a greater mitzvah, as a mitzvah with more reward or less reward. He says there's no such thing. So what does that mean?
Everything's the same.
And what does that mean? Because everything is not the same.
It's not the same.
No, but there's certain mitzvot that, like the Shiluach HaKen, and it gives you different rewards.
You're right. You're right. Good. So you're going to say that certain mitzvot, the rewards have been articulated for them, and those rewards are really lofty and great. They have to be better. They have to be more valuable. Good. So he's saying the following. He's saying that to somebody, the Shiluach HaKen is going to be
Simple.
that it's just going to be simple. There you go. Beautiful. It depends on the person where they are. Yeah, beautiful. So perfect. So for the person who's shushing away the mother bird is simple or commonplace or easy, there's a nest right there and he did it 3 times or whatever it might be. The credit, so to speak, to that person is minimized because it's not a real effort for him.
Is it really a credit or is it just a growth?
So let's
Or is
see.
that
We're good.
the
Beautiful,
credit?
Sarah.
Right.
Perfect. Hold on to that. We're going to go there in a minute.
That's the result, that you have a fuller life.
Right. Okay. So you have a full longer life because
Because you're,
in that zone.
yeah.
Okay. We're going to add to that now. Excellent. So we're going to say that it's true that in some, we highlight Shiluach HaKen and Kibud Avaim as the exceptional mitzvah. We do. Let's leave those aside for a minute. Even though we could put them in this category, let's not. Let's take every other of the hundreds of the mitzvot that we have. We say that even if this looks to you as more important, there's nothing more important than anything else. What's most important is depending on where you are. So we could be sitting in a room together, approached with the same opportunity. It will earn you 100 credits in the next world, and it'll earn me 1. Why? Because for you at that particular time, it's a greater effort to make, or the opposite, right?
So the importance you put on the mitzvah shouldn't drive you to do the mitzvah.
In fact, you level the playing field completely. Yeah, exactly. Beautiful. Level the playing field completely, and know that the importance is minute by minute. You could do the same mitzvah on Monday and then do it again on Tuesday. And on Monday, again, excuse the trivializing of it. On Monday, it was worth $1 in heaven. And on Tuesday, it's worth $100. What do you mean? It's 23 hours later. I did it before. It's the same thing. I'm just doing it again. Let's give a basic example. I prayed on Monday and I prayed on Tuesday, right? Monday, I prayed, just blew through it. And Tuesday, I put a lot of time and energy and understanding, kavanah, and consecration. It's pashut. It's obvious that my prayer on Tuesday would be worth more than that prayer on Monday, right? In fact, if I prayed twice on Monday, and the first time I prayed on Monday, I was checked out. I was reading the words. And the second time I prayed on Monday, I was fully immersed in it, focusing on every word and so on. It's clear, it's obvious that the second prayer is going to have much greater value.
Does this apply to the negative mitzvot also?
Beautiful. Hold that for a couple of minutes. Excellent. So we know that it's about the effort. And even if it's the same exact mitzvah, and I can do them 10 minutes later, if the effort changed because the challenge changed, then the value is greater. So there's no absolute value. Okay, there is no absolute value. So that's a very big factor, right? Okay. The second side of this is that the question becomes, what's the reward for the mitzvah? What is the reward, right? What's the reward for the mitzvah? So what do we want to say?
You're saying it's growth, but it's also some type of reward
Right.
in the next life, maybe, or.
Okay, it's growth. It's reward. It's the reward, the sachar in the next life, right? It's personal growth. And our rabbis introduce something fantastic here. They say the good feeling that comes from doing something good is considered like a mitzvah itself, and you get credit for that.
It's like when you make Hashem happy, right?
Yeah.
You're also getting mitzvah for making Hashem happy.
Yeah, so I'm getting mitzvah for making Hashem happy, good. But now I'm having a beautiful Shabbat table, right? I worked hard to make a beautiful Shabbat table, so I'm mekadesh Shabbat, I'm mechabed Shabbat, right? I honor it, I sanctify it, all those things, and then I have a great time. I'm going to get credit for having a great time at the Shabbat table. Yes. What are you talking about? Well, what do you mean? What am I talking about? You worked hard to make this beautiful thing, to bring this beautiful thing into your life. You worked hard to do it. Now you're enjoying it. The enjoyment is coming from the mitzvah. Why shouldn't you get credit for the enjoyment? Because I'm enjoying it. Isn't that the credit?
Isn't that the credit?
Right?
But you're
They
saying
say
no.
no. It's great. You should enjoy it, but enjoy it. And the enjoyment stands alone as another beautiful credit. It's fabulous. And when you think about it that way, it makes sense. Not only does a person get benefit to the mitzvah that he or she did, and the benefit is absolutely connected to the effort. The benefit is absolutely connected to the energy put in, to the concentration put in, and so on. The takeaway is going to be the enjoyment. So if the enjoyment came as a result of the level of input, then not only should the enjoyment be something ascribed here, why shouldn't the enjoyment be ascribed there too? Because it all came from the same place. Right?
What about the 10 commandments? Like, meaning those are definitely 10 laws that are like above.
It's a fantastic question. The 10 commandments, right? Are they any more important than anything else?
It only see
I think they define who, like the 10 core things that define who we are. So,
So it's a huge question. In fact, it goes to the extent where some people hold that you should stand up during the reading of the 10 commandments, right? Okay, the rabbis come down very hard on that person and say absolutely under no circumstances, because there's nothing more important than anything else. There is no mitzvah more important than anything else. But I think we got to rephrase your question to say, why was it those 10 things and not something
I
else?
have an answer.
Okay, what a surprise. It's either now or 10 pages later, so I'll do what you want.
No, I guess if you follow those 10 commandments, you encapsulate sort of everything that you're going to get out of all the other mitzvahs.
So that really makes the most sense. That these are the absolute cornerstone commandments, right? Particularly the beginning and the end, particularly the Anochi Hashem and the Lo Tachmod, right? Those are the cornerstone commandments. So if a person has those, yes, you want to say.
Mitzvahs properly. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to, put them in the right mind to do everything else.
Even if it doesn't, go back to your original point. That was stronger. Don't back off. Don't back off. Stay with your original point. You were absolutely on target. Those are the core points, right? Those are the core foundational points for everything else. Okay,
I was gonna say, weren't there a group of people like the kid I knew that just followed the law to the literal,
Yeah,
like the Ten Commandments? And there's other religions in the world that will follow the Ten Commandments and nothing else. But the Ten Commandments, everybody kind of.
right. And that's why, to your
The
point, Sarah,
Constitution,
we
literally.
don't translate the Ten Commandments literally for the most part. Because some of the laws are so basic, like don't kill, don't steal. We don't interpret them that way. Because everybody knows you can't kill. Everybody knows you can't steal. So we don't need God to tell us at one of the greatest points in human history, if not the greatest point, not to kill or steal.
No, but what, I mean, in the beginning of civilization, like the Greeks, might was right, they would steal from you because and even now in the woke system, you could steal up to $1,000. Like stealing isn't the,
Is that right?
yeah.
Not everyone knows that feeling about anymore.
Yeah, they don't know,
Ah,
and even
oh, really?
murder isn't. And murder, what about murder? Like,
Ah, okay, so you would hold differently. Your opinion is a beautiful opinion. You would hold not true. It's not the Ten Commandments are not a framework. They're not a foundation. They are the core, and that is an opinion, and it's beautiful opinion. And maybe it's coming back to something like that now. It could very well be. There are people that say what you said. There are people that say what Serene said. You know, that they're not the absolute core. They're a framework or a foundation. You're saying, I mean, not the core, that they're not the most important. They're a framework or a foundation. You're saying no, they are the most important, and those are the two.
Right.
And they're both very, very
Get
strong.
them
Ground.
taught and they know of, but also.
Very important.
That's right. That's right. Now, okay, so we came to this point. In Adam Yodea Matan Secharan Shel Mitzvot, a person doesn't know what the value of the mitzvot are, and we need to know that the value of the mitzvah is 100% about me at this moment. It's not. There's no absolute value. Okay, so again, you do something on Monday, it's something. You do something on Tuesday, it's something else. You do something joyfully, it's much greater. That's a fantastic question, right? We've touched on it. We didn't go into it in detail. What does it mean when we say we have to do mitzvot with simcha, with happiness? Does it mean I didn't fulfill the mitzvah if I don't do it with happiness? That's one opinion. Pretty scary. If I don't, you do it Hashem b'simcha. Pray when you're happy. Well, what if I prayed and I wasn't happy? I'm just not happy today. Okay, if you can't be happy because you're in pain about something, we got it. But if you could be happy and you need to work a little harder to be happy in your prayer and you weren't, when you prayed, did you fulfill the obligation to pray or didn't you? Very big question. What about giving tzedakah, which you're supposed to do when you're happy? What about matanot evyonim, giving that extra thing to the evyonim? What about sitting in the sukkah? All these things, what's tethered to them is that they should be done happily. So if they're not done happily, did you fulfill the mitzvah? At the end of the day, we say yes, but the way to fulfill the mitzvah, fulfill it happily. Okay, so he says here that a person should be, aware of the seemingly lighter mitzvot, no less than the seemingly more demanding
Wait,
mitzvot.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
That goes back to my story of when I was going to exercise and I was in a real slumpy mood and I saw a woman and I tried to cross the street for her and she didn't want me to help her. But I
He
wanted
slammed you with a pocket.
with the stick, but I wanted to feel the happiness.
Right.
So really the intention,
So you got credit for it.
now, well, we say it, but now that I'm learning Ramchal and the rabbi,
Right.
you really not.
That's different. You're asking another question. You're asking for,
Intent.
if I had every intention to do,
Intentions when.
if I had every intention to do something and some outside of my control precluded me from doing it. So the question is, what happens in that?
Yeah, what
So
happened?
what would you say?
After learning Ramchal, I think everything is intention. I really do.
Good.
I think intention is-
Excellent. So
You have
that
to do it with the right
intention
intention.
expresses who I am. That's the point. It's all about what's going on inside of me.
Inside me.
What I do, and that's, of course, that's life, right? Day to day, minute to minute. But the real story is what's happening inside of me, who I'm becoming, how I'm thinking, how I'm dreaming, how I'm interpreting certain things. That's the whole thing. So if your intention was absolutely to get something done, that was transformative to you. right?
Yeah.
That moved you to another place, right?
Right.
A different level of awareness, God
Right.
willing, different level of sensitivity. So you did it.
Right.
If you didn't check both checks, you got a check and a
Right.
half, so to speak. And that's exactly what he's saying here. That's
Oh,
why the enjoyment is also a
part
credit,
of it as the
right?
credit. Oh,
because
you have
the
to enjoy it.
enjoyment means I brought myself to a
Another
point
level.
where a fabulous Shabbat table is something that makes me happy. Not everybody thinks that way,
That's right.
right? So if I've grown in my life to enjoy helping people, I shouldn't get credit for the enjoyment as well. Of
Right.
course I should, because it's a reflection of who I am, of my growth. It's fantastic. It's a fantastic
Well,
idea.
it is because like even on Pesach, we do all the work. Then by the time we get to the Seder, it's hard, you have to push yourself to enjoy it.
Right.
Because I'm saying, it's not always easy to get to that.
I went to the grocery store
Oh,
this time for the first time in my life.
come on.
No,
JD.
first time?
He's the worst.
First
Take
time,
some
no,
time.
I'm exaggerating. It was the second time in my life. The problem is when I go there, I get lost. I sightsee, I daydream, I walk through every aisle. So I'm not going. And she yells at me, I bought an extra package of napkins. Okay, honey. Will we use the napkins over the next 6 months? I needed one packet. So then she tells me you don't go. I'm never gonna go. That's it. But I hear your point about the Seder.
You have here,
What's that? She'en ata yodea matan secharan shel mitzvot, right? We don't know the sachar reward that comes. In fact, we've said it's much more than that. Not only we can't, no. I don't know how to do
battery?
Myrna, if you could please mute.
Okay.
Well, I don't know how to do it. Okay.
You see his dishes? Very good, very good.
Myrna, if you could please mute, Myrna.
I'm trying.
And go on. Otherwise, throw the other guy out of the room.
She's my
Okay.
mother.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Sorry.
Then you can't throw her out of the room. Okay, not an issue. Okay.
No, he's hearing
Okay.
us talking.
Okay, Mehashev have said mitzvah keneged sechara. What does that mean? Consider the what you're doing now, which may preclude a person from doing a mitzvah in rule to the reward that you would get. In other words, somebody chooses not to say Arvit because they want to get to the dinner party 10 minutes early, right? For example, right? So they're not going to pray that night because they want to get to the dinner party 10 minutes early. So the idea is here, okay, getting to the dinner party 10 minutes early is beautiful. It's nice. You're going to enjoy it. And that's a real thing. But it's temporal. It's for the minute, for the moment. A day later, the dinner party is ancient history, right? So when they say, consider they have said mitzvah keneged sechara, it's not on just what it says on the surface. It's not consider the importance of the mitzvah, of doing the mitzvah versus not having done the mitzvah. That's not what the rabbi is saying. The rabbi is saying, consider the importance of the mitzvah versus the pleasure of the moment. And the pleasure of the moment is just that. And it's going to come and it's going to go. And the action, the mitzvah, is forever. So when he says, consider, Machshev said mitzvah, keneged sechara, they have said we're talking about the loss is because we're doing something temporal, something practical, something right here that's going to come and go. Okay? Okay, great. Okay. And then he says, Uschar avera keneged miftada. He says the same thing. He says, and the value of a transgression that a person is going to do here, lo alenu, versus the whatever comes with it. When a person here does something wrong, not only do they create a representative of that in the world to come, but they're diminished by it. The same way, by trying to help the lady cross the street, you are bettered by that, whether the action happened or not. an intent to do something wrong, it's not on the same scale of having done it wrong, obviously, but an intent to do something wrong lowers the person, damages the person, deprecates the person, whether it was done or not, right? Because you intended it, you wanted it, you were going there, you're there in your head,
But you
right?
stopped yourself, so you.
So you stopped yourself. So good. So you didn't go all the way there. You didn't get the X, but you've become less because you were thinking that, you were wanting that, you were chasing that.
Mhm.
The person who's chasing it is not the same as the person who's not chasing it, right?
Right.
Good. And then he says, look at three things, and a person won't stumble if they look at three things. And looking, we said the word in this case is istakel, to look, and it's not tid'eh. Tid'eh means to understand intellectually. Istakel just means to look. Look at three things and you won't make a mistake. And those three things are above us, ayin ro'ah, an eye meaning the eye of God, and we're using the term ro'eh in this case. So it's not, he does not looking, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands everything we're doing. He understands everything we're thinking. So when you have in mind that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is right there, he wants only good, but he's ayin ro'ah. Again, the ro'ah means that he doesn't see it, but he gets all the backstory, right? And he understands where all of it is going. So if you have that in mind, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in your life that way, some things would be tempered. Ozen shoma'at. You see the term lishmoa, the term in Hebrew lishmoa. Does it mean to listen or does it mean something else?
To hear?
Understand?
It means to understand. So you have an ear, so to speak, that understands exactly what you're intent to do. V'chol ma'asecha sefer nechtavim. And everything a person ultimately does is recorded. Everything a person doesn't do but thinks builds who the person is to end up in those actions.
Okay.
So going back to the core point, a person, we are, what defines us is, of course, our actions, but no less what defines us is the intent, is the state of mind, is the emotional place that the person's in. So the Ramchal's point is, in the Mesilat Yesharim, work on the inner self, work on how you feel about yourself, work on the thoughts that come into mind, work on the fact of whether a person is angry or a person is frightened or a person is envious or a person is whatever might be. Those are the core things to work on, he says in this chapter 11, right? And those shape everything else. And Rabbi is saying the same thing. Who's the person who emits that tiferet, that beautiful warm glow? It's a person who's at peace, and nobody's at perfect peace, God willing, right? But it's a person who's got it, who's working on these things, who can emit that positive energy and glow based on what's going on inside of them. Okay? Good. Okay. We're going to do one more. We're going to actually end a few minutes early because I have like very little left on my phone, but so I apologize.
This is
Huh?
like a psychology course.
Oh, yeah?
Better than
Oh, yeah? Okay. His son in the next Mishnah, Rabban Gamliel, his son, who was also a giant, says, Yafet Talmud Torah im derech eretz. He's pushing the bar a little bit. I don't see
No,
anyone.
I brought you charger.
I know, I don't see anyone. to plug in,
Okay,
right?
got it.
He's pushing the bar a little bit further. And he says that the word Torah has to be coupled with X, with derech eretz. What does derech eretz mean? In English, you loosely translate it as the ways of the world. What does it mean?
Respect.
Person that has good midot, right? What else?
I was thinking that as respect, but I don't know.
A person who has respect. Okay, yeah. What else?
I mean,
Right.
caring about others.
Good. All those elements that make up basic societal stuff, right? So he's using the word yafeh, right? It's beautiful. It which takes us back to the word tiferet. He's definitely building in the same zone as his father. He wants to tell you, this person who creates this beautiful, harmonious little glow around him or her, then he says, I'm going to extend on what Daddy wrote. He says, how do you, what's another angle at that? Is to be learning Torah, but with great sensitivity to the world. You know, one of the things that comes up in this respect is the question of kavod b'ribut, right? The unconditional respect for people, and that you know, they say even in war, right? Even in war, right? We see it now in this horrible war, right? There are laws of warfare. For example, you can kill an enemy combatant, but you have to return his body because there's basic human things. You can imprison an enemy combatant, but you can't mistreat that person. Well, what do you mean? Didn't he have a machine gun pointed at my head a minute ago? Yes, correct. Now that's moved to another place, and the field of combat. We're not on the field of combat right now. We're looking at a human being, and that's why we have the laws of war. We have the Geneva Convention, which tells you how to wage war. Isn't it absurd?
Yeah.
Waging war is killing people by design. That's right. It is. It's horrific. It should never be. But if you're one step out of that, then there are ways to treat another human being. So that's the most extreme case. In our case, for example, somebody brought up in one of the men's classes how they have a huge and hostile disagreement with the groups, the Jewish groups, who are forcefully try to hurt the state of Israel. Forcefully try to hurt the state of Israel. I said, look, I'm in the same place. I disagree with them vehemently, right? As strongly as possible. But do I fundamentally respect the person? Of course I do. Of course I do. Can I articulate his opinions? And of course I can. And that's the witness of the men were they came from the school of Hillel. What made the school of Hillel so noteworthy? They would take their opponent, Beit Shammai, with whom they disagreed aggressively, right? They would always state their opinions first. How many times can we do that? What does that mean? We have an unconditional respect for the other opinion. So I said, oh, what about Neturei Karta? What about Satmar?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I disagree with them completely.
Oh.
How many times did I miss the Israel Day Parade? Once in 40 years, maybe, right? I think we remember that. I did it. I missed it. Yeah. Okay. And was I in great pain when I saw them demonstrating on the side when we were marching with the Iranian flags saying destroy the Zionist whatever? Is it horrible? Yes. Do I respect their opinion to have another opinion? Of course I do. I articulate to you what their opinion is that I completely disagree with? Yes.
Because then you can't say they actually disagree with it.
That's right. I need to be able to, I can respect that person unconditionally, even though I agree with him completely. That's what the Torah wants.
When they have signs that the Holocaust should occur.
That's right. All of that stuff. That's right. No, I could fight you to the death. I could bring my machine gun against yours, but I can't disrespect you. That's the point.
In a way, I see a system because we were at a rally once and they had a sign up and we tried to rip down this sign. We got in trouble.
Of course you did.
Yeah.
You can rip
They
that.
wanted to put
Now,
us, you know.
yeah. Can you disagree with them completely? 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Can you fight them till the end? Yes. Can you disrespect them? No.
That whole movement of, the
Yeah.
transgenders and all the things like. You have to how they feel about themselves, but you don't have to agree with them, but.
Well, no, I'm not saying anything about agreement. I'm just saying there's disagreement on the human. There's disrespect. Disrespect can never be on the table, and that's derech. And I never disrespect my enemy. By the way, people who lose war is because they disrespected. If they truly respected the power of the enemy, they wouldn't have undervaluated their power, and maybe they wouldn't have lost the war.
But it's hard to tell, like, if they, he's wrong. You can't really.
No problem. With a child, it's one thing, okay, whatever. But with a young adult, I want to teach my young adult, you fight them to the end. If it's the woke movement, for example, we're going to fight them to the end. Somebody said about the two-state solution. I said, Orthodox Jews, Zionistic national Jews will fight that to the end because the two-state solution is just code language for destroying the state of Israel. There is no possible way other than God just coming down and wiping everybody out in a second, maybe what would happen. There's no possible way the state of Israel could exist if they truncate a portion of the country. And there are missiles 5 seconds, not 5 minutes, but 5 seconds from Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. There's no way. So when people advocate for the two-state solution, everybody knows what they're talking about. They're talking about ending the Jewish state. They're clear. Everybody knows. So will I fight that person to the end? Yes. Will I disrespect him? No.
What do you mean by disrespect?
Tell me.
I don't know, like sometimes you could go to a rally and you see the protesters bombarding the other side. Then I like that the side.
Listen, I'm allowed to protect myself. I'm allowed to defend myself 1,000,000%. I'm not allowed. That's the deal, right? I can't disrespect anybody, and to couple their disrespect, and there's no such thing. And if I want to be clear-minded and I want to be the person I want to be, fight the person till the last day. But I can disagree and fight the person till the last day, but I will never disrespect that person. That's the fact. And that's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu expects. So it was really something. She said the most beautiful thing. Meaning Jewish young men. But it's going to be very difficult or impossible for me to forgive you for forcing you to kill your kid. He's expressing a universal value of respect. That was a very big thing. I know. Nobody's perfect, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
And I feel like Jews, they're always sitting.
Right. I said, put the machine gun, so to speak, right there. You can't disrespect the person.
Disrespect me.
Well, it means kill him, but don't disrespect him.
Oh, but don't respect them or whatever. the law
That's
is.
right. Whatever's appropriate. Whatever's appropriate. Good. Now, what the we'll continue this another time. What the Rabban Gamliel is saying, he's saying that you want this glow, you want this harmony inside, you want the refinement of core character traits, right? What do you got to do? You got to think about these things. I don't have to agree with anybody, for example, but I can't disrespect anybody. What do you mean? The guy is a this, that. He's a thief. He's a murderer. That. Okay, bring him to justice. To disrespect him, sorry. Stop. Well, what about the dead body of the murderer and the car thief and the whatever? Who the heck cares about it? Throw it off the bridge. A Jewish person would never do that. We would never do that because there's a core human decency. And what is the lack of core human decency? That's not justice. That's a great failing in the person, right? Justice is justice. Take your justice. But the person who's enraged to the point where they're throwing the body off the bridge, so to speak, that's not justice. That's something inside that has to be fixed. Yeah.
And they took-
Yeah. Right? They do him in a bit. Never, ever uttered. He never uttered an utterance against his brothers. What's going on here?
Right, he had their.
That's right. He had it exactly. Did they wrong him? 1,000,000%.
Right.
1,000,000%. Right? Fantastic. And that's why he's the Sadiq. He's the real paradigm. He's spectacular, right? Because he saw the big picture. Okay. We're gonna fight. I'm gonna fight, by the way. I'm putting one of the guys in the prison. I'm sending you back with the thing. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna bring you guys. I'm gonna cause you some grief. Yeah, it was controlled and it was smart and it was so on. So what do we want to do? Let's close. What do we want to do? We want to be looking inside. We want to understand what a particular action, thought, or word is doing to us, how it's shaping us. And in that respect, we become the most refined, we become closer to ourselves and closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Good. Who's left on the Zoom?
I am
What was that?
Shelley.
All right.
Hi.
Good to have you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.